So to start, quick disclaimer. I do realize that I go in public in full cosplay. And I do realize a lot of people don't have the luxury of growing up in really accepting environments or open-minded that get exposed to a lot of these things. So a lot of people don't even realize cosplay exists. People don't know really how to react often when they see a cosplayer, and therefore it leads to a weird stigma against cosplay or thinking cosplay is something suspicious. So anyways, I was cosplaying my D&D character, which looked like this. I think it was, so I wanted her to have a like Lolita themed look, and with like the dark gothic aesthetic. She's basically a necromancer, which means, you know, I wanted to make her a little edgy and gothic, which I thought was really neat. Also, my throat is sore. I was teaching all day, so I was talking quite loud to a bunch of kids to speak over them many times. So I'm going to take a lot of sipping breaks because my voice is very tired. So I was cosplaying this character and I drove up to the college. I always take my photos at my college usually. It's a really safe spot with a lot of photo places, and I know when everything closes, so I can get there on time and I can have the campus to myself basically to take photos, which I really like because I don't like going very populated places to take photos. A lot of cosplayers are very uncomfortable with that, including myself. So I went to my usual photo spot. I went to a particular building and I did all my normal stuff, and there were two girls that walked out of one of the side doors, and it was 6:30 on a Friday night. So I was kind of like, okay, you know, like, I don't know, maybe they were staying late or something. It was summertime too, so it's like the middle of summer, so it doesn't make sense for students to be there. I live really close to my campus, so it makes sense for me to be there. I'm there pretty much every week at the same time taking photos also. So I continued on with my normal thing, and I noticed, so I was in the middle of this like giant flower garden that was like a circle, that was in the middle of like a traffic loop, but nobody was using it. There was nobody around at that time, and there were some trees around me and all, but I could see as these two girls walked past me, they had their phones out and they were taking photos or videos, and they were giggling and they were being very immature. And I was like, you know what, that's okay. I'm pretty okay with that. Like, there's a lot of teenage girls that do not understand cosplay, and they haven't really gotten to that place in life where they're like, oh, being weird is okay. So they still think it's really funny to just be like, haha, look, there's a cosplayer over there, and take videos of that. So I'm just kind of like, okay, the worst it's gonna do is like someone happens to, let's say they were posted on TikTok and be like, oh, look at this weirdo. You know, what's the worst that's gonna happen? Somebody's gonna go, oh, that's Miss Collie Doyle. And then somehow it adds, or people are gonna go, haha, I think that's Miss Collie Doyle. And people just make fun of me for it, but it still gets views and whatever. So like, I don't really see that as hurting either way, so if they want to do that, go ahead. I continued on, and I noticed that they were like staying really uncomfortably close to me. Like, they were not leaving. Like, you know the distance of like a 1-lane road? They were staying that close to me. So I was a little sketched out, of course, because, you know, if anyone's being that close to you for that long, you're gonna think, this is a little weird. You know, like, I don't really like want to be followed like that. Even if it's girls, I'll still feel that way. So I kept moving away from them, and I like barely got any photos because they just kept getting close to me whenever I'd find a good spot to take photos. And then I was like, okay, they're being really suspicious. So then I went towards the front of a building, and they had the keys to get into the front of that building and like stood in the entryway. And I was like, oh, so do they work here? Like, that's strange. So I continued going on, and I took photos going forward, and then I watch, and they're walking on the sidewalk right next to me. They still had their phones out and everything too. And there were two girls with brown hair, just like mine, no bangs though, and just wearing ponytails and like gym shorts and black and navy blue t-shirts. And they ended up like following all the way up that sidewalk, and I just decided at this point, like, I'm just gonna do my thing. Who cares? Make TikToks, take photos, because to be honest, like, I make income on Patreon and such, and I didn't want to like not have photos even though they were being this way, because that's kind of a really, really important thing for me, like to stick to my word. I was hyping up this cosplay forever, and it was gonna rain in like 30 minutes. So I said, you know what, like, I'm just gonna take these photos because it's, you know, the rain and whatever, and I need to get the photos right now and I don't want to miss my chance. So I continued taking the photos, and then they continued to follow, like, into more doorways. So it got to this point where I was like in the college, like, it's like an outdoor cafe area, and nobody was there. Like, no restaurants on my campus have been open in like a year. There's absolutely nowhere to eat. It's awful. But still, so I was just using that little area, and I'm like, I'm a student there, so like it's not too much of an issue. I'm just a student dressed weirdly. If you really think about it, I'm just a student dressed weirdly. Like, I'm not doing anything weird. They stood in the doorway and like watched more, and I was kind of like, okay. And I actually did get creeped out at this point because they were staring so intensely, and I saw one of them get on their phone and sit there talking while looking at me, and the other girl was videoing me. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, I don't know, like, maybe this is like a trafficking thing or something. Like, they are being really suspicious. So I booked it. Like, I didn't run, but like, you know, I sped walked to my car as fast as I could in heels. And then I sat down in my car, I put all my stuff away, and I just turned it on. And then a guy on a bike comes up to my car. And he literally, so he had on a yellow shirt and his helmet. And then I saw he had a university police badge on. And I'm like, okay. I was like, I thought I had like a brake light out or something. And I like was like, hey, what's up? And he's like, so you were like, got some reports from our student patrol. They must have been student patrol if they had keys. That you were acting suspicious around here and you were doing some weird stuff. Like, what's going on? And I'm like, I showed him, like, my tripod was next to me. I said, I was taking pictures. And he's like, oh, yeah, are you in cosplay? Like, he knew what cosplay was. He was totally chill. And he was like, no, it's okay. Some people, like, just don't understand. That's probably all it was. And he was, like, super cool about it. Thank goodness. And he was like, so you're a student here, right? And I'm like, yeah, I'm a student here. Like, so I had my parking pass up because I was in a student parking lot. And, like, it was displaying right in front of, like, my car. And I was like, yeah, I pointed to my parking pass. I'm like, yeah, I go here. I do this every week. And he's like, yeah, I get reports every week. They, like, the student patrol, like, is, you know, seeing you all the time up here. And I'm like, okay, first of all, that's weird that you're following me, like, every week, you know? But I didn't say that, of course. I was just kind of like, okay. And he's like, I think I've seen you here before. And I was like, oh, you must have been the officer that, like, there was, like, 2 months previous to this, my brake light was out on my car, and I didn't know that. And he didn't, like, ticket me or anything, really, but he was just kind of like, hey, get that fixed. This is where I suggest if I don't see it fixed. Because he's like, I see your car drive by every day. So if I don't see it fixed tomorrow or, like, the next day, then I'm gonna, like, ticket you. So he already, like, knew me, and I was in cosplay when the brake light thing happened. So he knew that I was up there all the time cosplaying, and that's why, like, he hadn't really checked in previously. It was just they were really suspicious of me that time, for some reason. So I guess, I don't know what it was, but, you know, so part of the reason why I take photos at, like, a college campus is because, like, I think it's a safe place where people are very open-minded. Like, college campuses, unless they're very specific colleges, are stereotypically very open-minded places where people, younger people, are aware of things going on. And, like, also, I don't really know why you wouldn't know cosplay. Because, like, even when I was, like, way younger, before I was into anime or anything geeky or had attended a Comic-Con, like, I kind of had an idea what cosplay was. Or you could just put two and two together. Like if somebody's taking photos in a costume, I don't know, it could be for a theater performance for all you know. So it's not really your place to like be like, hey, they're acting suspicious. They have a tripod and their phone out, you know? So I was a bit salty about that because my college campus is my safe place to cosplay. Since obviously you expect the people there to be a certain way. And that's why I don't go and do a lot of like public parks and stuff because people are really rude to cosplayers in those places. Also, I felt comfortable on campus that night because I knew nobody was around, so I was just, you know, excited that my surroundings were empty and I had the whole place as a set basically. And so then after that, I kind of drove off and I went to the other side of campus. So there's like a giant bridge in the middle of my campus and it splits up my campus in two. So I went to the other side and I said, all right, rain is in like 10 minutes now. Like the clouds were like really dark and it looked like it was about to pour. So I'm just like, okay, I'll just go take photos in like the bridge or something even and, you know, just get some to avoid the rain. And because I'd only gotten like 30 photos at this point, and I looked like I parked and on top of the bridge, the two girls were looking down at me. And I was like, I mean, like, so now I knew they were student patrol. So I'm like, okay, they're just gonna think that this guy talked to me, so I moved or whatever. So I just continued like doing my thing and I used a different area and like they still watched and like the guy on the bike went by once more and saw it was me and then like they got a walkie thing and then they just like walked off and that was the end of that. So that was an odd scenario, and since then I really don't take cosplay photos alone on campus. My campus is my only place that I felt safe pretty much taking photos alone. I always have somebody with me taking photos, but before that I'd always just gone alone to campus. Like it was my place to go when I didn't have a friend to like go with me or like my boyfriend was busy, so I would just go there because I knew it was a safe place. But I'm actually really disappointed in my college for that because my college preaches like open-mindedness at everything too, and you know, like go figure, it's just some corporate talk stuff, you know. It is just, that was the weirdest thing that I would have never expected because it is the most peaceful thing I think somebody can do is just taking photos somewhere. Like there is no harm in the activity. So yeah, that's pretty much like kind of a horror experience I had like a month ago cosplaying, and it really changed the way I do my photos, and I haven't been able to get a lot of photos since then because it's kind of like I have a paranoia that like wherever I am on campus somebody's staring at me, and I don't want to feel that way necessarily, but it's like I guess it can happen to a lot of cosplayers too, because if you consistently take photos somewhere and somebody doesn't like it, then you know, it's not even like I was dressed inappropriate either. They just were not very open-minded people. Since then though, it's been all clear, but I've taken friends with me every week I go, when I can. And I've noticed this, one of the girls with the ponytails, I don't know how else to describe them. They were really, really, really basic looking, nothing unique about the appearance. So I've noticed the one before walking near me, but when they're alone, obviously they're not going to sit there with the camera looking at you. So yeah, that was pretty much it. So definitely, you know, just my take on it is, not everyone's there to just harass you in cosplay. Sometimes they think you're up to something very suspicious. Who knows? And then on top of that, always take a friend with you, even if you think your place is safe. Even if you're going like 2 minutes from home like me, where you think everyone knows you and knows what you do every week by now. Also, I'd never assumed like girls my age who looked pretty friendly would act that way, because on a daily basis I'm a very normal person. I dress normal, I act normal, I don't talk about anime much or anything. And I'm not used to being like that, but they were very, very rude. So always be careful when you're out there cosplaying. So yeah, it's my little story time for today, and I just spilled water on myself, but I will see you guys next week.